Hey, welcome back to the 5-Minute Strategist. So we could not do a mid-year review without covering the financials. And I know it's tempting to start with these and set those big revenue goals and then try to make everything else fit. But instead, what we've done is flip that on its head and start with everything else so that you can get a clear idea of what you want and then see how that will impact on the bottom line. And sure, you might have to make some changes and some tweaks. But when you choose the money, when you choose to tweak something you want for a financial result, this will make you more aware of the sacrifice that you're making in terms of your own happiness and the sustainability of the business. This is how we ensure that we prioritize long-term success over short-term gains, also known as the vanity metrics. So let's start at the top with revenue. One of the things that I see small business owners do when they review revenue is that they think of it as one block number, and then they divide that by 12 to figure out what they should be making each month. And this either creates unnecessary panic or potentially some unrealistic confidence. Instead, what we want to look at is the revenue over time. You want to look at last year's revenue broken down by month and compare that with what you're seeing in the first half of this year in those same months. Did you do better than last year in that month or worse? So now, as you look at the coming 6 months, you could look at the patterns in those 6 months in 2023. So were there seasonal spikes or dips? Maybe things are traditionally quiet in your business in August and then you have a big launch in September. You can also look at last year's numbers and adjust those for any changes that you've made this year. This helps you to get more accurate in estimating your revenue and keeps you grounded in the data. So you're not in that pie in the sky, I'm just going to add a 0 to what I made in the last 6 months and hope for the best kind of thinking. And this is a great starting point. For most people, this will be a massive improvement on anything you've ever done before. But if you're ready to go to another level, you can do this at the offer level. This will give you an understanding of what's performing well and what's not performing so well. And you can look at whether that's a sign for you to change things about that offer. Maybe you need to tweak the offer. Maybe you need to stop offering it. Maybe you need to put more into a different offer. Or maybe you'll be able to see that actually that's the offer that you launch in September. And that's why it looks like it's behind everything else. So now we've got a really clear picture on how money is going to come in. We want to think about how money is going to go out. So you're going to start with all of your major expenses, and then you're going to think about how do they compare against your budget. Potentially you don't have a budget, so you might want to think about making a budget for the second half of the year. But you can also look at your expenditure versus the previous year, just like you did for revenue. Look at the patterns. Look for which expenses are connected to revenue, so they go up and down as revenue does. And then we want to look at, in the first half of the year, was there anything unexpected that happened? Did you have to spend money you weren't expecting? Or is there something that you spent a lot of money on that didn't yield the ROI that you were expecting? And there could also be places where you feel like you underspent, things that performed really well that you didn't invest enough in the first half of the year that you want to redirect some money to in the second half. Okay, so now you can see your predicted money coming in and your money going out. You want to turn that into a cash flow. And this looks at the balance on the bank account over time so that you can spot those mismatches between revenue and costs. If you've spent a lot of money up front on marketing before you've made any revenue off of it, how do you have the cash flow for that? Or where you got paid up front, you can't simply look at the bank balance and think, I can spend that money, because then how will you pay the costs to deliver that in month 2 and 3? This is going to help you to spot any months where your cash flow is really tight, and you can think about what you need to do to improve that situation ahead of time. Knowing what you have available means that you don't get stuck moving money from your personal account to cover shortages, or you don't not take your salary because there isn't enough money in the bank account. Your cash flow is a tool, so it will show you at a glance what financial resources you have on hand so that you can grab an opportunity when it presents itself. Or it can highlight to you when grabbing that opportunity that you think is the sexiest squirrel you've ever seen is going to jeopardize your financial stability. Your financial planning and review is not all about you patting yourself on the back for a great first half or shaming yourself for missing an overly aggressive goal. Sure, I want you to go ahead and celebrate if you've done really well, 100%. But I need you to then refocus on what's coming up. And instead of shaming yourself, I want you to look at the data that it's given you to work with. The reality is that the financial review is not really about the numbers at all. It's about understanding the story these numbers are telling you so that you can use that to make more informed and strategic decisions for the rest of the year. So instead of going, did I hit X revenue goal? I want you to ask yourself, what do the financials from the first half of this year tell you about the decisions you need to make for the second half?